snapping twig. Discussion from my perspective is about the history of some of the technique and information systems that inform Kenpo and how those affect the techniques we do, the way we do them, and why. In particular, snapping twig has a lot of components left over from some of the old white crane foot crane form stuff, bar form stuff. And it has to do with generating force through rotational axes, both the waist, chest, shoulder, wrist. Okay? So we see this position. This is ulnar flexion. This is radial flexion. This is called dorsiflexion. This is called palmar flexion. Why do we care? In crane kung fu, we start off with this movement pattern. It's a universal movement pattern, a universal key motion pattern. And we'll see these crop up in Kenpo. Those are just called stirring the pot. If I do it with one hand, it goes like this. So I just have a great big cauldron and I'm stirring it, keeping my elbow high. If I want to do it with two hands, they're super slow. It starts looking like Tai Chi or something, internal systems like spot washing, selling systems, right? If I want to start going faster, you might start seeing some old Kenpo movement pattern stuff trying to crop up out of it. Snapping twig is an opportunity to have a discussion about and to teach strength movement from rotational axes, stemming the crane movement patterns. Specifically, you start watching some of the white crane systems, you'll see this. And then this gets turned into and some other, a lot of this, a lot of this. What's become of it today is just shake the crane, pull the arm down, right? That's really not going to explore the explosiveness that comes from the crane system in Kung Fu. If we take a look at the crane system approach, snapping twigs, you'll see crane Kung Fu systems where the guy has one hand going like this, the other hand goes back like this. Fish back through some old footage of Mr. Tatum, Mr. Pick, Mr. Chappelle, Mr. Parker. Look for this hand position. Mr. Parker did it on purpose. He knows doing it. Some of the guys know they're doing it on purpose. Some don't. They just picked it up as a habit. They picked it up for a perfectly good reason. In pool, we talked about the idea of a leave, right? Instead of just hitting the cue ball and having like stop, like bang, my cue ball sit where it is. I'm gonna go flop, let the cue ball kind of roll off to the next location because that sets me up for my next shot. And that next shot is really important for the next piece. I'm not shooting pulley, then I crack and I'm thinking, aha, moves between the moves, that's a leave. Snapping twig is a great technique to discuss and look at and orient around the move between the moves. The leave, 10 for 6 inward chop. You can do like this, yeah, right? You're going to have something here where I have internal rotation at the shoulder. I also have flick taking place in the wrist going from external rotation, internal rotation, in and around these axes. And this is a very different hand sword than this, right? Again, track down on YouTube. It's a great part about this system is we look up all kinds of stuff. Find some of those old pics of Mr. Parker that Mr. Hawkins has put up and look for chops that come from out of the back 40 instead of chops that come from now, right? Snapping twig and the white crane Kung Fu system. If you look at the white crane, you see this a lot. This is flagged hand. Flagged hand position of white crane. Slap check. There's that hand again doing that low thing. And it goes back to the position, back to the back 40. So from here, if that was my break, we might have this as my chop, my hammer, my elbow. So I'm drawing these nice big wide circles. The challenge with big wide circles is I run the risk of blowing up my inner organ. If I take that shape of the crane, move the hand out of the way, and I go too wide, I'm going to entangle one of the arms that I cleared and miss with the hammer. I'm going to get behind it. So what I want to be able to do is have an embryonic learning stage where I get introduced to this motion pattern. I've introduced a technique called hooking crane that is just basically snapping twig, deleting the front end component. Sure. This is Joe. Joe rocks. Joe's going to help me with this component. Hooking crane is against jiu-jitsu. You have this big thing about monitor. You really want to diss somebody. You walk and find the crescent and you cover it up, right? So against a mon cover or a simple front-end assault, what I do is shake the crane, remember this, right? And I step back, right before we hit our neutral bow, and this becomes a quick stir of the pot. But I get to practice something. I get to practice staying on the inside of this. If I go wide, I get a hit. I get my own head taken off, and I did it. If I learn how to clear this thing and stay inside the orbit, then I get to be the guy who clears the stage and takes the head off, instead of having the head taken off. So hooking crane is this break the eyes, pull this back, here, and the rest is snapping twig. Right? snapping twig and the white crane component. We go, but find some of the old Hawaiians that were hanging out in this department back in the late 60s, early 70s. Again, there's a lot of influence, some of the Imalama, some of the Lua. And you see this bit. Start to shape the crane, you can go from extreme palmar flexion to extreme dorsiflexion. And the rotational axis is around the wrist. And just that flick of the wrist going from one to the other becomes a nice force multiplier. So we get to go, wow! This one strikes just a moment earlier, pin. This one does this bit, it goes from closed to open in that balance between the two extremes we fight force. So we have this, Jesus, he's taking this shove, I get to go, wham! And I want to clear this thing out of the way. Notice the hand down in the air, right? This goes out of the way, good shot. I make sure I don't go and hit myself. Take this, get this thing out of the way. I'm also going to drag my rear foot up to my lead foot on account of, if I really nail him with this shot, that should start rocketing him back. If I clear this and I start nailing with this, that should also rocket him back. If I'm just going to sit here at a neutral bone here in my anterior elbow, I'm hitting nothing but air. I'm going to have to chase his ass down. So I'm take my shot, clear it out of the way, that should move him back. That should move him back. My feet are together in a united stance. Now I'm going to go to the inward elbow, right? So that's my inward elbow. The first I like to do again for you Hawaiians is we recognize it. Back elbow, back thumb. Take off the sack, right? Crank the beans, right? Yeah. A couple of components, a couple important parts to pay attention to. Syncopated rhythm or offbeat timing. What I have is head. I don't just want to go bang, bang. It's 3 different shots. I get to go one, pop, knock it that way. So you remember that Atari Pong? You can set the paddles up and get that ball to go ding, dong, ding, dong, ding between the two of them. I got one that goes here, flop. I get another that goes here, flop. I got another that goes here, flop. Right? I'm going to anchor my elbow and my body as I pull this together so I get a maximum increase in power. Notice this shape of the crane. So I have yikes, and there's an insert at the beginning, a prefix. If you really shove in this thing, I can take a step back with my right foot before I take a step back with my left. And I've got them extended. I've also got them in a little bit of a Z-lock. You should recognize these out of jiu-jitsu. So you get a little bit of a Z-lock, and then this shape of the crane, bam, clear it out of the way, pop! Back, put them down. So these are components of snapping twig. It's nothing more than these circles coming back. I hit this circle, flop once, flop twice, 3, 4 times, before going, taking out the ending. And that is snapping twig, learning first the hooking crane component in order to teach you this without jacking your arm.